السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن اتبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. Inshallah, we'll start today with the story of the final prophet, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We talked previously about the story of Prophet Isa, so now we're moving on to the story of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Few things to keep in mind before we begin the story. The story of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, since he's our prophet, there is a lot more details to it. It is very long, so it starts from the beginning, so we know a lot more about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, more than any other prophet, since he is our prophet and he is the last prophet that was sent to us. Also, something to keep in mind that the majority of the story of a lot of the story of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is not mentioned in the Quran. Majority of it actually comes to us from the Sunnah, unlike the story of many of the other prophets that most of it, or if not, most of them are mentioned to us in the Quran. So let's begin. To begin the story, we're gonna have to go back into the root of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or where he comes from. So the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to speak about his lineage comes from Prophet Ibrahim. So he is from the great of grandchildren of Prophet Ibrahim. So Prophet Ibrahim is one of his great grandfathers, and he comes from the lineage of Prophet Ismail, the son of Prophet Ibrahim. So in order for us to understand the story of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we want to understand the story of Mecca. We want to understand the story of the forefathers of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Even though previously I've discussed the story of Prophet Ibrahim and the story of Prophet Ismail, but we do want to revisit them with the relations that it has with the story of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, for us to understand better the story of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and where he comes from, also where Mecca comes from, and where the people of Quraysh, which is the people that's going to live in Mecca, come from. We have to go back. So, as we mentioned before, the Prophet Ibrahim wanted to have children and didn't have children for a while until Allah blessed him with a child from Hajar, who was gifted to him by his wife Sarah. And she became pregnant and she had his son Ismail, and that was his firstborn child that he had. And Prophet Ibrahim was commanded shortly after Prophet Ismail was born to leave him in this desert location that Allah had commanded him to leave him in, him and his mother Hajar. And he did leave them both there. And Hajar was concerned about why she was being left in this desert with nothing and no one being there, her and her son. So asking Prophet Ibrahim, why are you leaving us here? And multiple times, until Prophet Ibrahim responded to her question when she asked him, did Allah command you to do this? And he says, yes. And Hajar says, then Allah will not forget about us. Now they are left in modern day Mecca. Now it was not Mecca at the time. It was not a city at the time. There was no Kaaba at the time. There was nothing, no stores, no food, no drinks. It's just a desert. So as they left there, Hajar had a little bit of food left, a little bit of drink left. She runs out. The baby starts to cry, seeking food, but she has nothing to offer the child at this moment. So she started to become concerned. That's when she started going around between the two mountains, right, where she was left, going on top of the mountain of Safa, go and trying to check the horizon, see if there is anyone that can help her, see if she can see any sign of water, food, anything. Then going back to the mountain of Marwa and back and forth. She keeps going back and forth 7 times, and she would run in between, try to rush to find anyone or anything that can help her son, who is crying and hungry. So as she goes and look for someone, Allah decrees that Jibreel comes and start digging beneath her son Ismail. And as he digs beneath his foot, she hears water gushing coming out from the ground. And this is the well of Zamzam that Allah had willed for it to be dug beneath Ismail. And this water start gushing out from the ground. And this means everything will change for Hajar, because now if there is water, water equals life. So if there is water, there will be food, there will be people, there will be a city. If there is water, water is a source of life. So as the water comes out, Hajar start to hog the water. So she tried to keep the water in, which caused the water to become a well. The Prophet ﷺ said, if she would have left that water running, it would have become a river. But she was worried that she would lose the water. That's why she's tried to put dirt around the water to keep the water in one place, which has led to the water becoming a well. This well of Zamzam is still in existence and is still running until today. So after the discovering of this water, after some time, there were some birds and animals. There were some people who came. Slowly, this started to develop as a city, and these people came and settled there. Hajar had people living in this place. She continued living in that place. Her and her son growing up there. Prophet Ibrahim is not there. And this is going to develop to become the city of Mecca. There is no Kaaba at this moment yet. After the discovering of this well, and after Prophet Ismail gets a little bit older, and we know the story of the slaughter that we have mentioned before, where Allah tested Prophet Ibrahim to slaughter his son Ismail. And after the passing of this test that Allah wanted to test them with, then Prophet Ibrahim returns to build the Kaaba with his son Ismail, commanded by Allah to build the Kaaba, a house for Allah. So they started building the Kaaba together, and there is one spot for one stone left, and they could not find the stone anywhere they looked. And Allah sent the stone that was left. Allah willed for that stone to not be found, and willed for them to have one missing stone, so Allah can send it from the heavens with the angels. And this was a white stone. And the Prophet ﷺ said that this white stone, after it was sent from the heavens, later on it had turned black because of the sins of the children of Adam. So Kaaba is now completed. Mecca is a city. Prophet Ismail is the prophet to the people of Mecca. He is calling them to Islam, bringing them to Islam, telling them about the message from Allah. As long as he was alive, the people are Muslims. They learned about Islam. They're doing Hajj to the Kaaba. They're following the religion of all the prophets until Prophet Ismail dies. Now, Mecca is still a Muslim. Now, Mecca also had effects not just on Mecca, but on the rest of the Arabian Peninsula. This whole thing here that is inside these lines that you see, the outlines here, or what is modern day Saudi Arabia, this entire thing called the Arabian Peninsula, right? With the other Gulf countries that is over here. All of these different cities, tribes, all were following also, or started later on following the religion of Prophet Ismail. And Mecca became a center to all of these cities, right? Because it had the Kaaba. So it played a significant role to everyone else, just like Mecca plays a significant role to us today, because it has the Kaaba today. Even it is like the center of the Muslim world because it has the Kaaba in it. So the same way, the role that Mecca played to everyone else. Everyone believes in the one God, worshiping Allah, following the footsteps of Prophet Ismail. But things are going to change. Just like when Allah sent any prophet before, the pattern has always been the same. What is the pattern? Allah sends a prophet, he brings people to Islam, the people follow Islam. after these people die, and the generations that come after them and the generations that come after them, they start to change their religion little by little until the religion becomes unrecognized, until the people go away from the worship of Allah and start worshiping other gods and start making up new things in their religion that never existed before, that the prophets had never came with. And then Allah would send a new prophet to bring that old message that the people have forgotten back. So similarly, what's happening here, the religion of Prophet Ismail will slowly fade away, will slowly go away, which will later on be in need of refreshment. So Allah will refresh it on the hands of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But as of now, the religion of Prophet Ismail is about to fade away. How is it going to fade away? Well, it's going to fade away on the hands of a man. Okay, who is this man? This person, this individual, his name is Amr ibn Luhay. Okay, now who's this Amr ibn Luhay? This is an individual who was a well-respected person in Mecca. He was famous. He was well-respected. He's from the elite, from the leaders. This person used to go out for trade, just like all of the people of Mecca used to do. They used to go for trade. That was their main occupation. Their main job that they would do is to travel from Mecca to a Sham area to buy things or to sell things, and back and forth between Mecca and Sham area. So that was their main source of income, if you will, is by buying and selling things, trade. So this man went to a Sham area, and he found that the people in the Sham area were worshiping idols. He saw them praying to statues and stuff. And this is a man who worships Allah alone, right? Follows the religion of Prophet Ismail. So he was surprised to see that. What is this? What are you guys praying to? He said, well, to speak to God or to speak to Allah, we don't speak to him directly. We speak to the statue to speak to Allah. We do not speak to Allah directly. So he said, what? He didn't really, he was shocked at the idea, but he liked it. So he ended up purchasing two of these statues, two big ones, and he brings them back to Mecca, right? And start propagating this idea. If you want to talk to Allah, here is a new way for us to talk to Allah. There is a cell phone that you guys can talk to Allah with. What is that cell phone? That is these idols. Speak to the idols to speak to Allah. Don't go to Allah directly. It became an accepted idea, became widely famous. It became, it was adopted by all of the Arabian Peninsula, most of the Arabian Peninsula, if not all of the Arabian Peninsula. The idols became so widespread that they even became around the Kaaba, in the Kaaba. And this man was officially the person that was that had changed completely the religion of Prophet Ismail, right? Even though the people did not think that they were changing the religion of Prophet Ismail, they were thinking that they were improving it. They were doing something good, right? And a lot of the innovations are like that. They make the person think or feel that they're doing something good. And that's why the scholars, they say, doing a sin is actually less of a crime or less worse than an innovation. Because when you add something to the religion, you're thinking that you're doing something good, versus when you're doing a sin, you know that you're doing something bad. So you eventually want to stop. But when you're adding something to the religion, you're thinking that you're doing something good, and you don't think that you should stop. So that makes it more dangerous, and that makes it worse in that sense. So it became widespread, this idol worshiping activities here, all over the Arabian Peninsula. And the Muslims here became idol worshippers. The followers of Prophet Ismail became idol worshippers, and they kept on adding things and changing things to the point that they were adding practices that was unheard of, that Prophet Ismail never taught them. Like, for example, going around the Kaaba completely naked. They would go around the Kaaba completely naked. Why? They would say that, well, we did sins in these clothes, so we can't go around the house of Allah with clothes that we have sinned in, so therefore take these clothes off. So they would just go around the Kaaba completely naked, men and women, because they thinking that we can't go around the Kaaba with clothes that we sinned in. Again, things nobody ever taught them, and many other things that you can keep adding to the religion, and things they have left from the religion until it became unrecognized religion. Definitely not the religion of Prophet Ismail. So this was what led the people of Quraysh to become that. What was the economical status of the people of Quraysh? Well, the people of Quraysh relied on a couple of things to make money. One was trade, like we mentioned, right? And that was the case for many of these cities that were around them, working mainly in trade, right? Buying and selling things from different places. The other thing was the Mecca was like a tourist place because everyone was visiting Mecca for Hajj. You're like, what? They're doing Hajj? Yeah, I thought they worship idols. They worship idols, but they're still doing the Hajj that Prophet Ibrahim had taught them. It's a twisted Hajj switched around Hajj, but it's still called Hajj. So they were still coming around from all of these cities to do Hajj here. So the Meccans were making money from selling idols and having these people spend money there in Mecca. So that was another source of income that these guys had in Mecca. What about religious? What is the religious situation here? Idol worshiping was the main religion for the vast majority of the Arabian Peninsula. There were some Jews that lived in Medina, and these Jews lived in Medina because they had prophecies from Allah in the Old Testament that the new prophet that is coming, because they were awaiting a new prophet. They knew that there is a new prophet that is coming after Prophet Isa, right? And this prophet was going to come in the Arabian Peninsula in a city that was surrounded by palm trees, a city that was in between two volcanic mountains. And that description fits Medina precisely. And that's why they remained in Medina, awaiting the new prophet, hoping that the new prophet would be from among them. There were also some Christians, not many, but there were some Christians that exist here in the Arabian Peninsula, in Yemen and other places. And these were the main religions that existed in the Arabian Peninsula. So that's their economical state, their religious state. Let's pause it here, inshallah. We're going to continue next time. We'll talk about what's going to happen next and what is going to be the situation when the Prophet ﷺ is born, and what is the world looking like at that time. We ask Allah to make us from those who will follow the footsteps of our Prophet ﷺ. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Wassalamu